Hello and welcome to the channel. So if you've seen the Tesla video where I look at all the ways it improves your life, you'll have noticed I was doing some mountain biking with the kids in that, and I had the bike stored on top of the car. Now when I was getting the car, I thought I would use the tow hitch mount and get a tow hitch bike carrier for the car to do this. But when I actually looked through the manual, there's a specific instruction about the weight limits, not just the towable weight that you're working with. They actually stipulate a center of gravity limit as well. So they say the center of gravity has to be calculated no further back from the tow ball than 22.5 centimeters, which means you've got to basically think, if you've got three bikes and the weight of the carrier, the center of gravity is going to probably be around about the middle bike, or a little bit further even than that, and the total weight is going to be way over what they say that limit should be at that point. So that kind of rules out the idea of using a towable bike carrier for the Tesla, in my opinion, especially if you're looking at more than maybe two grown-up bikes, or in my case, two kids' bikes and my bike. That was enough to put it past that limit. And obviously with these things, if anything does go wrong, you don't want to give the insurance companies any wiggle room if you're pushing something over the published capacity of something. So I think for me that was the point. I decided to go for the roof bars and the cycle carriers on the roof bars, and I'm actually really pleased with how that's working out. So I actually made a little spreadsheet here, which I'll link to in the description if you wanted to play with this to find out if your towable carrier is going to be over that center of gravity limit or not. So you can put in the weights of your bikes and the distances, and it will tell you if that center of gravity is too much over that limit. But for me, it was, even with kids' bikes and my bike, so I went with the roof carrier instead. So the roof bars are definitely quite expensive compared to other roof bars on the market. Obviously, being the Tesla branded ones, you kind of expect there's going to be a bit of a premium on the price. But given the mounting points are so specific to the car here, I think the best thing to do is just to get the branded bars and accept the costs as part of having a Tesla. So on this channel, I make films looking at design, usability and workflow, and exploring how products with great design can help us on a day-to-day basis and make the most of those things too. So please hit the subscribe button and come along for the journey. So in terms of carrying bikes on the Tesla, the roof bars and the cycle carriers are a pretty good system and surprisingly easy to take on and off. So the idea is you put the T-track adapter bolts into the bars, and you can actually just leave them in place so that you can take the cycle racks off the bars, store everything in the garage, and then when you want to carry some bikes, you can pop the bars on and then put the carriers on top, and the bolts are already in place. Because the thing that takes the time definitely is feeding those bolts along the rubber, because the friction there makes it so hard for them to slide. It's very, very awkward, and you've got to get the position right. So once you've done that, you don't want to be doing that again. So the other steps where you put the bars on and off the car, or the cycle carriers on and off the bars, those are actually quite fast. The only thing that takes a bit of time is screwing up the clamps that hold the cycle carriers to the bars. That's the bit that takes the most time, I think, out of this. But it's still a 10-minute thing. It's just on a Friday night, you can get all this done in 10 minutes and you're ready for the weekend. So I think it's a pretty cool system compared to the tow hitch, which obviously is you've got to lie on the ground and bolt the tow hitch on, and then you've got to put the cycle carrier onto the tow ball and all of that. So that's quite a lot of a faff as well. So between the two, this is, I think, as good as you could hope for, really. So I've done another video where I look in a bit more detail about mounting the bars on the car and looking at the torque and checking the torque. And I show actually the torque, the correct torque, compared to manually hand tightening with the hex key, which is quite interesting to see as well. So check that out in the other video. And this one, I'm going to focus mainly on the sort of workflow of carrying bikes on the car. So once you've got three bike carriers on the roof bars, you're at the point where the noise is definitely starting to get noticeable. So what I'm going to do is a little sound test where I'll be using my point of view setup with my binaural microphone earpieces. So the microphones are actually in my ears, so you're hearing very much the same thing that I would be hearing. So it's quite a nice way of experiencing the difference in sound. And I'll compare the difference between driving without the bars at all, with the bars, and then with the bars and the cycle carriers, and then another test with the bikes on the cycle carriers as well. And you can see the difference in the noise between all of those things. And I'll do this on the same stretch of road, and I'll just cut between them at the same point on the road, and you'll hear exactly the difference between those setups. Now, obviously, the other thing to consider when you're talking about carrying bikes on a Tesla is the impact on range. So putting the bikes up on the roof is clearly going to be worse than behind the car in the car's own slipstream. So there would be an advantage to the tow ball mounted carrier in that situation. But given that isn't actually an option if you're trying to stay within that center of gravity limit anyway, I don't think there's much discussion there. You've just got to put up with the fact that they're on the roof, and there will be an impact on the range. So I'm going to do a little test, and I'll put the results of that up on the screen as well. So there's another consideration with the discussion between whether bikes should go on the roof or behind the car on a towable carrier, and that's when you're charging at superchargers. Generally, they have you back up into those bays. There might be a space issue behind, so if they're on the roof, then that concern isn't a problem either. And of course, it does mean you can carry a trailer as well. So this could be quite a good setup for camping. You could have the bikes on the roof and a little camping trailer behind. So obviously there is a weight limit published for the roof here, and I'm not quite sure if it means before the bars are on or after. Obviously it applies to the cycle carriers as well as the bikes, but I'm just not quite sure if it includes the weight of the bars or not. If I ever clarify that, I'll put that in the comments below. But it is still quite a good weight limit. I've got no concern about my 2 kids' bikes and my bike. Hopefully 3 grown-up bikes should still just be in that as well, maybe even 4. But of course there are other options. If weight does become a problem with the number of bikes, you can take the front wheels off and use a sort of more lightweight bike carriers where they just clamp on with the forks. Those kinds of options would reduce the total weight on the roof too. So I was a bit concerned when I was buying this car that its sort of pursuit of aerodynamics and all the rest of it would mean it wouldn't be a very good fit for doing something like carrying bikes. But I'm really pleased that the roof bars and the cycle carriers here, this whole system works very well, and it's so easy to put on and off that I've got no problems just chucking this on for the weekend and taking the kids out. So I hope this video has been useful. Hit the like button if it has. Let me know in the comments what you think too, and if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them, and I'll see you in the next video.